My guest today is Grammy-nominated artist, studio performer, TV actor, music director, school owner, and on top of it all, a music teacher who genuinely loves what he does. Oh, and he's also a friend of mine. Roberto Hermosillo grew up in Mexico, earned a full scholarship to study classical guitar under Christopher Parkening at Pepperdine, then became one of the first Mexican guitarists to earn a Master of Music from Berklee's campus in Valencia, Spain. He's based in Santa Monica now, where he runs Roberto's music studio, a thriving lessons agency, and stays active as a performer, songwriter, and studio musician. Today, we're going to talk about what it looks like to find success as a multi-hyphenate artist, educator, performer, and business owner all at once. Roberto, welcome. It's good to see you, man. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing great. It's good to see you, man.
And I was reflecting and preparing for this talk, how we met. You were really just getting your lessons game going. You were in California. You had a lot of vision, and you were going to make some things happen. And that was just a few years ago, it feels like, but you've really made things happen. So what's going on out there?
Yeah, well, it was actually 8 years ago when we met.
Did we first meet 8 years ago?
Yes.
I would have guessed 5. Wow.
Wait, no, when did you start Fonz?
2017 is, I think, when the version launched that you would have used.
Yeah, we met in like 2019 or 18.
Okay, there's life.
And I remember very vividly because you were the first person in my life that told me that I was undervaluing my lesson pricing, and that was like actually one of the most helpful things anyone had ever told me. And I mean, I know that might sound like, if somebody's just watching this, that might sound like, oh, like criticism, but no, it was like, someone was like, no, dude, like you're worth a lot more than you're charging. And it was really the beginning of a beautiful journey. So I don't know if I've ever told you that, but
I remember those conversations well. And I remember being like, wow, this guy's got a lot going on, a lot of education, a really unique value proposition. And that time you were doing some stuff in the schools, you were building your private thing, you were all over the place. You're still all over the place. But yeah, so that journey from then, you obviously raised your rates, you got busy, your business became, and at that time you were just teaching yourself. I don't think you had teachers working for you yet.
yeah, I was teaching myself, and I was actually working for a couple of nonprofits, and I wasn't getting paid much for what I was doing. And I was still trying to figure out how to get students for myself. That was like really at the beginning of my journey. Like, how do I get more students where I'm getting paid, a decent rate? That was where I was.
And were you serving Santa Monica at that point too? Was that your location then? Or you were a little more spread out?
No, I remember very specifically that we met right before I moved to, I was in the Valley. I was in North Hollywood, it's not as wealthy as the west side of Los Angeles. And I remember right after we met is when I moved to Culver City, which, for, music lessons, obviously, if you are in an area where, there's more, wealth, it's easier to charge more money, right? I don't think that means that you can't build your music teaching business in any other area, but I'm in Los Angeles and I was like, well, I might as well be where I can charge the most, right?
So did you move to be able to serve that clientele you wanted to serve? You're like, this is a geographical shift to where the people that I want to serve that can afford what I'm doing are going to be.
Yes, 1000%. It was not accidental. Plus, I had studied at Pepperdine for my undergrad, which is in Malibu, and I had a lot of mentors and friends from church, especially a lot of church friends who were very successful, people, and they would tell me, dude, you're like, and I feel like as a kid, you don't even realize that when you're like 18, 19, 20, you're like, oh, I'm just here in this pretty place called Malibu, I guess, and studying guitar, and I'm lucky, and people are like, no, dude, like people here are very wealthy, actually, and I didn't realize it, and I had a lot of mentors and friends who were like, no, if you're in these areas, you can actually charge more and you can work less and you can end up making a very good living just doing what you love, which is, teach music and play music. And so, yes, it was a mindful move because prior to me living in North Hollywood, well, before that I was in Spain, and then before that I was in Malibu, and I was like, okay, so if I'm in these areas, there's people that can afford a higher rate, which is what, from conversations that we had, is like what I was worth, honestly. It's what I was supposed to be getting paid based on the education I had. So yeah, it was totally a mindful move. I was like, yeah, I'm moving to the west side so that I can build a teaching practice here in an area that where I want to invest too, you know?
And when you made that move, how long did it take it to work? Like when you made the move, you raised your rates considerably. I remember it vividly, your plan, but I don't really remember the journey of it.
It took years.
Yep.
It took years. And there's many reasons why. Some really good ones, some not so good ones, but it took years. And you know, it's funny because actually in preparation for this meeting, I was like wondering how many tries did I how many attempts did I do at like building a teaching studio before the one that I have right now, which is the one that I have right now is the most successful I've ever had, right? In many areas. This is my 9th attempt.
Okay. Your 9th iteration on this project.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, I was thinking about something today in my own personal, like, creative journey. And I was just going for a walk and I was thinking, everything is an experiment, man. Every song you write, every, piece you learn, every gig you take, every business you start, every iteration of that business, they're all experiments. And anybody who gets somewhere along, and it's a tenacity to, I think, realize that, to just say, okay, I'll do it again. This worked, that didn't work. I'll do it again. And here you are on the 9th iteration of your studio, in the middle of also doing dozens and dozens, probably hundreds of other projects along the way that are tangential and part of your music career. But that's the real message that I wanted to pull out of this conversation today for people listening, is that every music career is so different.
Thank you
For you.
So I guess the short answer to your question, how long did that take? It took, I mean, I don't know if I can find it. Maybe I can find a day when I was like, okay, this is when like it all exploded, right? It took like 3 or 4 years, but between those years, I was working for Fender too, for like, on and off. I was doing stuff for Fender.
You're building curriculum for them, right?
I was a curriculum developer and on-camera instructor. And I was their resident Latin music expert. So, anything Latin music, they would call me for, like as a consultant for that. But if I tell them what I did, which was I was a script writer, it's like, well, you're a script writer? What do you mean you're a script writer? They would give me a song and they're like, well, make a lesson on this song. And we were actually write the entire script for how that lesson was going to be taught on camera.
Oh.
And sometimes I would teach it myself. Sometimes I would give it to other people. I can't, because of NDA reasons, I can't talk about a lot of specifics. But yeah, I was a script writer for lessons.
And so that opportunity came up, and I'm sure you learned a lot from doing that.
It was the best experience for growth as a teacher that I had in my life.
Really? Why?
Because I was surrounded by incredible music teachers. And like to the day, I'm so grateful that I got to be part of that. And I still call people whenever I ran into the other Fender Play people, especially my man, Matt Lake, shout out to Matt Lake, who created the app along with a couple of other people. He got me into that work. He hired me for that work. They were all incredible teachers. And I just learned how to create something that was digestible and easy to do. And I got incredible at making tabs and creating arrangements, which then I use that for my lessons even today. Like if a student says like, I want to learn so-and-so song, and I never heard of it, I'll come up with like an arrangement on the spot, and it'll take me 5 minutes to make a tab and a chart on it.
Whoa, really?
Because like I was a tabber at first for Fender. Like I was just making tabs. Like, and so I got incredible. I can make charts like secretary, just like I know all the shortcuts for multiple software to do that. So and I just got really good at it. And the fact that I learned to teach on camera, I learned how to speak clearly to a student, and that made me a better teacher as well.
There are 3 things I want to extract from that I think are really, I did not know this about you. The first one, how cool and how interesting. I mean, before this gig, you had already studied with some of the best teachers in the world, many of the best teachers in the world. I'm sure that doesn't even include the master classes you've played for. But you're with Parkening and at Pepperdine. I mean, you've had great teachers, but you were studying with these teachers as a student to work on your own craft. I
Yeah.
think what you said is as at the Fender Play opportunity is that you were with teachers to create educational content, which was a different just conversation that allowed you to hone that. I think that's an interesting thing. The second thing I think that was really interesting, it's a second piece of you. When I think about you, I think of someone who's just really visionary, really grinding, willing to work to do what it takes, but also seeking out an opportunity. And so that Fender Play opportunity began as you were a tabber, you said, right? You didn't come in there like running the curriculum and building all these things. That you had an opportunity and you kind of jumped on it. You learned that skill really well. And the third thing that I just thought was awesome is that time there, how transferable that is. I would love to be able to whip out like a really good tab. I'm pretty fast, when I'm teaching. But when you said that, I was like, I would love to be able to just crush an awesome lead sheet or tab in like 5 minutes for a student right on the moment. Like that's a great transferable skill. And again, it just shows that unique journey that you were able to take and how it puts you where you are now. Because I think just a lot of people, they see people and they're just like, oh, I could never do this thing because they don't see the journey that you went on to get to where you are. They might see in the bio that you went to this college and then you went to Valencia and you studied with Pat Pattison, and they see the big bullet points, but they don't see the actual start out doing some tabs at Fender and it turned into this thing. And that's the message that I think is so important for people to see.
Yeah, and I mean, it was like getting a degree in music education, but they were paying me for it.
That's awesome.
And like, obviously, there's other things that I didn't learn there that I learned, like that are like classroom management. I didn't learn there because like I was teaching to a bunch of cameras in a studio in Hollywood. Like there's no classroom management there. You're just there sitting and teaching to cameras. So that's different. But other than that, I can see that I became a much better teacher there, and I'll be eternally grateful for that opportunity. And that right now they're not producing anything for now. It's like really special as a word to have been part of that first batch of the people that did that for like 7 years. And I'm one of them. And there's a group of like 20, 25 people that were those people. And I was one of them. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. And I got to learn so much from, like, honestly, from people that were, a lot of them were better musicians and better teachers than me. Or different musicians. Like that, we also, a lot of us have different backgrounds, but I'm very lucky that I got to be around them. And I'm still in touch with a lot of them. So.
And I want to try to put these pieces of the puzzle together, and I want to come back to your studio too, but talk about your relationship to songwriting and performing and touring and what you're doing right now.
It's funny because this comes up in dating, like, so what do you do? And I'm like, how long do you have? Like it's a very long explanation to explain to people, what do I do? But the reason, well, I always wanted to teach, number one, but I feel like I always had it very clear that I wanted to be an artist more than a musician for hire, which is two very, I mean, I feel like if you go to music school, people will tell you that those are two different jobs, right? Being a musician for hire, whether that's a studio musician or playing concerts or whatever, arranging, it's one job. Being an artist is another job. I always had the clarity that I wanted to be an artist, right? And I was always open to being a musician as well because, well, I had the skills. But for a long time, I was like, no, I want to be an artist. And the teaching made a ton of sense too, only because I enjoyed it and I was good at it. But it just made a lot of sense to have that stability from teaching so that I can then invest on my artistry, on my artistic projects. And along the way, yeah, people would ask me, hey, you want to play at this concert? And I'd be like, sure. I mean, why not? Hey, you want to play a wedding? Sure, I want to play a wedding. You want to play with this artist at this big festival? Sure, I'll do. And at first, I was very close-minded in the sense of like, no, I'm going to be an artist and then I'm going to be a teacher. And if people offer me anything beyond these two things that I'm open to doing, I'm not interested. And I think in retrospect, that was a bit of a mistake. As I grew older, I realized that it's all art, that being a musician for hire is all art. Making an arrangement is art. Making a chart is art. Teaching is art. And I became more open to other things. And I have my priority projects, But when people come and offer me other things that I'm like, oh, this is really cool. Yeah, I'm down to do this. You know, like I still play guitar with people that I like and artists that I like. And I can't always do it. I was actually offered a huge tour in October of last year, and I had to turn it down. And it was like a, arena tour with one of the biggest Spanish language artists in the world. But I looked at it and I was like, God, I would love to do this tour. And if I take it, I'm not going to have a single day off in 3 months. And I was like, no, this is not my priority. I'd rather use my time for my artistic project than go on tour with this guy, you know? And then the beautiful thing of being a studio owner and a teacher is that I don't have the financial need to go on those tours right now.
If it's calling you and if it fits.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's a piece of also just kind of earned and learned wisdom in this now. There was a time in your life that you probably would have gotten a call like that to go on an international tour and you'd be like, I don't care what, I'm out, like I'm going. But to know, I really love that you talked about being an artist, because this is something that really consumes me too, is the idea of experiencing each day with a creative spirit and with like, do what you just said, teaching is an art, doing a transcription is art. And it's really, I mean, I believe it's how you approach it. And I love that you're able to spot these opportunities, decide whether or not they're the right fit for where you are right now, but also realizing that all these things can be done with like an artistic and a creative intention. That's the whole beauty of getting to live this way. And
Yeah.
they are all interconnected and they're all part of each other's journey in a way. These opportunities that come up, the people that you meet, the gigs that you take, the gigs that you don't take, the students you invest in, where you decide to teach, it all creates this fingerprint, right? That's you, only you. And it's so beautiful.
Yeah. And honestly, I feel like I got to that point also because I had to get rid of a lot of old school ideas about what a music career should look like, which they don't really, in today's world, they feel almost toxic.
Oh,
But in the 80s, they made sense, you know? Like, and
what's an
I,
example of that?
I feel like there's a lot of ideas that were put in me at school or by older generation, not all my teachers, but like some people were, it was like, yeah, if you study performance, you're successful when you go out there and all you do is perform.
Yes.
Or you're a studio guitarist and that's all you do. And it's like, okay. And then you go into the world and you are like, well, the world is very different. LA is very different than when you came here in the 60s, sir, or the 70s, or the 80s, or the 90s, even. Like, and I feel like there needs to be this new playbook for what a music career should look like in today's world, right? Because I consider myself successful, but maybe I wouldn't be considered myself. I wouldn't like what's a lot of music school would sell as success wouldn't be me. Still,
Or maybe that you got nominated for a Grammy.
yeah,
Are those the things that are the
yes,
currency of that dogma?
it's like playing with famous people, doing famous things, and Grammy nominations, winning Grammys. But if I tell you, hey, Eric, I'm making multiple six figures as a music educator and performer, like, who's gonna call me to, like you care because you get it, but they want to hear the shiny objects. They want the shiny objects. That's like what used to be considered success. It's like, oh, you're playing with so and so, and I know people are playing with so and so, and I make a lot more money than they do, and their lives are not that fun, and their lives are, some have a good life, some don't have a good life, and it's like, I don't want that life. So here's I'm gonna be very specific because I feel like I'm roaming around the bushes, and
No,
it's
it's
like
great.
it's when you came here, especially in LA, and I know because I heard so many stories of the previous generation. If you were here in the 70s or 80s, you could make a full-time living as a studio guitarist. And it was not easy, but it was a lot doable. It was doable.
The Howard Roberts era. Yep.
like it was a job, and you can only do it here. And I met people who were like, yeah, I recorded that song, that famous song, in the afternoon, and in the morning I recorded a dog commercial. Like it was a job. And like there was like you could get a gig with a big artist and they put you in a, you know, $50,000 retainer in the 80s or something like, and they pay you really good money. And it was like an incredible earning job. I don't want to be negative, but that world doesn't exist like that anymore.
Mhm.
It's changed a lot. And if you're being held by those standards today, you're gonna feel like a failure. You know, like that whole thing, like, oh, I bought a house when I was 25 in the 50s. I was like, well, yeah, it was the 50s. Like buying a
Huh.
house today in Santa Monica is different, you know?
Yeah, I think that you're in LA, which is obviously the epicenter of so much of what spins out of our culture or from our culture. What do you see for, a young guitarist or a young musician of any type? Are the main metrics now TikTok followers or YouTube followers or like or Instagram followers? What are the things that people are building into? Like what do you see as this new model outside of the teaching thing for young musicians and young artists?
Well, I think the teaching is important. And I think that if you have a calling for teaching, you should definitely do it. And it's going to give you a great life. Number
No
one,
question.
it's a beautiful, beautiful career. Number one. Outside of that, it's honestly, it's gaining, yeah, getting fans. And it's finding a way to just get work. Like, and I don't want to be negative. Yeah, I still get plenty of work playing and recording and blah, 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 blah. But number one is, yeah, building the online thing and building the online thing, but also having actual fans and actual clients, not followers, but fans. Like, because
Oh, not followers.
I play with bands that are more in the college world and the performing arts centers world, festival worlds. And it's almost like this middle class of musicians that are making a good living and they're not famous, but they got their fans and their fans
Mhm.
go to their concerts and they buy their merch and they buy the teacher and they buy and they're like crazy about them. And if I tell you their name, you probably never heard of them, but they're making a living and they own houses and they're fine, you know, and there's just so many different levels of how you could be doing that. But trust me, I have friends that have millions of followers on TikTok, and if they do a show tomorrow here in LA, they can't get 100 people to go into their show.
Well, so how interesting is that? And do you think that, I mean, curriculum has changed? I'm trying to imagine what curricula or curriculums, how they would be changing in music school. And what I'm hearing you say is, shouldn't music school really be teaching you entrepreneurial basics to build a fanship? If you're a performer, you should come out of school with a strategy for how you're going to find 1,000 fans, right? 1,000 true fans, whatever that thing is,
Yeah.
and understand the mechanics to be able to create that. Because it is true. I know exactly what you're talking about. A lot of these regional, mid-sized bands, touring bands, niche bands, they do great because they're really savvy and they know what they're doing and they're managed well, and whether it's by themselves or somebody else. And it is a great living.
It's really very different. And, you know, there's, of course, the big label artists, the Serena
Yeah.
Carpenter, they're like, and those are always going to be there. And I feel like that's what I mean when schools sell you the shiny object, like music schools, like that success, like, and that's still a remnant of an old school system where that was the only way to get in. And I met a guy in a museum one time in LA who was part of a band who shall remain nameless, but like a famous band. And he told me in the 60s, you could walk into a label, tell them you had a band, and they will sign you. And I was like, you're joking, right? You're exaggerating. He's like, no. You could walk into a label, like my first manager walked into a label and got a job and asked for it. Like that doesn't exist anymore. You know, that it's either
Mhm.
through connections or applying or whatever. So there's that world of like those top artists. And then and if that's your only proof that you've succeeded, that's very hard. And I wish you the best and I hope you make it. And it could happen to you, but also there's a lot of stories behind it that no one's going to tell you. But everything else in
Mhm.
between that and like being completely unknown and that, there's a whole world of you can be enjoying a beautiful career as a musician and have a great time and make a good living.
I was reading an article written by a very famous classical artist who was talking about what it's really like being on tour on a holiday when you're on a train by yourself between two places in Europe. That sounds very romantic and awesome. But the fact is you're really lonely and you're exhausted. You've been on the road for 3 months and haven't had a day off, like you were just saying. And it's like, oh, before you sign up for dreaming about this, make sure you understand what it actually is if you do, in fact, are the 0.1% of people that get to this moment. But also, you would think educationally that the focus would be on that, the median of like, here's how you have like a freaking awesome life. You're going to impact all these people through teaching the thing that you've loved so much, and that's going to keep your passion going. You're going to, some of your students, they might get that Sabrina Carpenter gift, but you're going to be the person that's generating all this energy for the thing and the art that you love so much. And that's going to create space for you being awesome in your performance career, your recording career, the other things that you like to do. And through both of those things, opportunities pop up, right? You're creating a flywheel. And I wanted to just quickly, maybe you could tell us about one of your recent projects. I know you were nominated for a Grammy last year, and there was some really big names on this,
Yeah.
right? I kind of know where I'm going with. Could you tell us a little bit about what that experience was like?
Yeah. I mean, it was crazy. It was beautiful. It was an emotional roller coaster. And I'm very grateful that I gotten to be part of something like that, right? So the name of the project is Rock for Children. My friend Ruben Salas, who I adore, is the lead producer of that project. And he, I met him through the Grammy world, and he invited me to be part of the project. And, there's a lot of things that we did for the project. And yeah, there was big names. I mean, it's a project of Alice Cooper's foundation he has some teen centers in Arizona, and the idea was to create some remakes of Alice Cooper songs and some new songs as well. And Alice Cooper was in a lot of the tracks, and there was Slash in one of the tracks. Derek McDaniels from Run DMC was in it. Rolf Halford. It's a big team, by the way. It's not like I don't want this to come off as like I did this, and like because it would be a lie. And especially big projects like that are never like I did this, unless
Yeah.
you're Alice Cooper. Alice Cooper can't say I did this. I can't. It's always like you're part of this team, and it's very humbling to be part of a team like that. And yeah, of course, when we found out that the record that they made got nominated for a Grammy, it was like very exciting, and it was just beautiful. It's beautiful to meet and work with Alice Cooper. Like I'm a fan of his, and
Yeah.
it's a big project, and I'm a part of that project, and I'm grateful that I get to be part of it.
How did you say that project came into your visage? How did that arise? And you said was that through your connection at the Grammys?
Yeah, well, not at the Grammys, but in the Grammy world.
Oh,
Not
okay.
not, not with the Grammy as an institution, but like when you start going to the Grammys and to Latin Grammys, you'll end up meeting a lot of people that are working in projects, and you'll end up meeting people that have Grammys or have been nominated, and through that world, I met my good friend Ruben, who's you know one of my best friends in the music world and someone that I admire. Incredible musician, incredible producer, and he invited me to the project. So he was like
Okay.
he asked me to make, and I said yes, and that's how I ended up working on the project. And the first one, now we're making a second one, and I'm even more involved in that one. And but, so yeah, it's through connections, and I guess that's the thing, that because I have that stability in my teaching world, I get to go and hang out with people and not be needy or like pushy or whatever. I'm
Desperate. Yeah.
desperate is the word. Yeah. And I feel like that has been the beautiful thing about experiencing the music industry from a place of power where, yeah, I'm not desperate. I'm like, sure, if I get this gig, I get it. If I don't get it, I don't care. And sometimes I get things and I say no. And I don't say that with arrogance,
Mindfulness.
gratitude. Yeah,
Yeah.
mindfulness, and a lot of gratitude.
And to be able to walk through the world and have authentic energy that is like, no, I'm going to really consider this opportunity, but I don't have to take it. There is such a different thing, like you just said, about that desperation of needing to get the gig or needing to get the call. It's such a different thing when you're just the confidence that comes with not having to take anything that comes your way. And I wanted to, as we're coming back to your studio and really painting this picture of all these things that you're doing, one of the things I'm really hearing is that your geography, we talked about at the beginning, was really important for starting your school and understanding, oh, this where I went to school in, Carmel by the Sea, it was really wealthy people there, understanding that dynamic of, oh, these people can support my business. In your case, it's the other leg of your life. It's also really the contacts you've made and the context of knowing them has been really important. So if you were starting a career again, could you imagine another location? Like let's say you were in maybe a secondary market, but are there other towns outside of maybe, Nashville or Austin that you could see yourself building a career the way that you have now? Or is it LA a critical piece to what's made you work?
I don't think LA is the only place where you can do this at all.
Okay.
Uh, but this is where I want. This is where it made sense to me specifically for many. It's not just I have so many reasons. Personal. My family's here. My parents and my siblings, not in LA proper, but they're in a town that's an hour to an hour and a half drive from here. So okay, it's important for me to be around my family. I did my undergrad here, so I already knew this place and I had connections and I was familiar with the place. And I love Santa Monica with a capital L. It's a beautiful town. And when I was a student at Pepperdine, I wanted to live here. I know I grew up by the beach. It reminds me of my hometown in Mexico. I'm Mexican. LA is very Hispanic also culturally, which makes sense for my music. And just I feel comfortable here. Whenever I play in Mexico, I just take a quick flight or I drive.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you said, the epicenter to so much music that's being made here. So there's like so many reasons for which LA makes sense for me that might not make sense for some people. Like I know people who are here and they're like their family is in Europe or their family is in South America and they miss that. And I'm like, well, my family is an hour and a half drive from here. So it made more sense to me to do that, right? Could you do that in San Diego? Yes. Could you do that in Santa Barbara? Yes. Could you do that in Miami? Yes. Could you do this in Dallas, Texas? Yes. Could you do this in other towns? Yes. And you could still have access to a lot of things that I'm talking about, but to me, I like it here.
Because the things that if we hadn't brought that up, you wanted to be close to family. You wanted to be close to the beach that remind you of home. You wanted a quick access to be able to get to Mexico if you're going to do shows there. It wasn't just you were just coming to this place because it was the land of opportunity, which it is. I mention it because a lot of people, remember we first talked and I was getting to know you and, talking with teachers. I love doing that. And something I hear a lot of, and I can imagine people maybe listening to this and just thinking, well, he lives in LA. Of course, he's got access to Alice, of course, he's rubbing elbows in the grocery store with Alice Cooper and gets.
So Alice lives in Arizona.
Okay, but you get the idea.
I know.
But the idea is you live in a place that works for you and you find the opportunity where you are with what you have and what's around you. So that should be really encouraging, right? And I think all those things you just listed for why you chose to live where you are and to build what you're doing. And even within that saying, oh, this is why Malibu really works to build a business. And I want to circle back to that because we started with where your studio was when you were first getting started 8 years ago. And now you're at this point where you've got a really neat boutique type agency style model for how you run your studio. Tell us a little bit about how your studio works now.
Yeah, absolutely. And the studio itself is new, by the way. It's like a little over a year, like a year and a half old, where I started to bring other teachers. I had been working here on my own for a long time, right? And I have still to the day I have school, contracts with a couple of schools, and I'm the music director at one of them. And and I had a very busy schedule myself. And what we do is that we provide in-home private music lessons yes, we don't have a physical location. And there's a specific reason for that because because I don't have a physical location. I can pay more to my teachers than just about any other agency. I don't know. There might be other agencies that pay as much as I do, but I'm in the top range of how much teachers get paid. And I mean, there's There's some group classes that I pay. I pay this teacher 180 an hour for a group class. And
Wow.
being able to pay someone that, I mean, that's a group class, right? The private lesson rate is lower, but the private lesson rate is still higher than other agencies. I'm not going to say it publicly, but
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm paying someone that much money for a group class. It feels great to be able to pay someone good money. And even
Yeah.
for the private lessons, I I know I'm compensating them well. And that's something I learned from from another, and he's a mentor of mine. He's my coach, actually, Ben Hyman. And you know Ben Hyman.
Yeah, of course.
Incredible guy. I mean, you and him are two of the people that I admire the most in the music teaching world. And he was like, yeah, pay your teachers well. And that's how you attract the best talent. I pay my teachers well. And they're happy. Shocker. People work better when they're paid well. Mind blowing.
Yeah.
I wanted them to be in a position where, which I've been in that position in my life where I might be doing something, and you know that phrase, they don't pay me enough to put up with this shit. They pay me
Yes.
enough. I'm paid plenty to put up with all kinds of stuff. It was like, oh man, this is stressful. It's like, well, I'm getting compensated very well for dealing with this, so I'm not even gonna complain, and that makes a difference. And it's not all about the money, by the way, but people deserve to be compensated well. And you
Yeah.
can't do that if you have a physical location, as you know. Probably you can, but like not in this part of the world. Real estate here is stupidly expensive. The average price of a house in my neighborhood is 2.5 mil.
Wow. Yeah.
That's the low end, actually.
Yeah. That's
And
crazy.
I live in the poor part of Santa Monica.
Yeah. And well, in your model, if you were to sketch it out, the other reality is that the parents who are usually are going to be the clients of your agency, they really prefer the in-home thing. So they're already so busy. They see that they're willing to pay more to have someone come to their house. This is knowing your place and knowing your area and knowing your demographic you're serving, that real estate is ridiculous. So why not use the space they have? And then the third piece is you lit up when you talked about paying your teachers a lot. And I know that I've talked to a lot of studio owners that want to start a studio, and it becomes well, how can this pencil out to where I can get as much out of each lesson as possible? They're probably not charging enough to this client to begin with. But if you find that sweet spot where instead you're thinking, not all music teachers have the business acumen that I do or the Rolodex that I do of people coming in, I'm going to pay them really well. I'm going to give this incredible service to my students of my school, and everybody's going to be happy. And I'm going to make enough money that when stuff does go south and gets tough, I can just look in the mirror and be like, that's why I'm running the show. I get paid to do this, so I got to deal with it now. So that is a really beautiful place to find yourself in, because you're just helping people. You're making everybody's worlds better. And through that, you're building a business that works for yourself. It doesn't matter where you live, what city you're in, what town you're in, what you teach. You can apply this methodology to your landscape and create something that looks completely different than what you're describing, Roberto. I love that you shared that playbook. That's really cool.
Yeah, no, thank you. It feels good. And like I said, people prefer when you're dealing with certain demographics of successful individuals, they tend to be busy, and they prefer if someone comes to their house, or there. I mean, I have people that just do Zoom, and and a friend of mine who's an incredible drummer, who's also been a mentor of mine, touring drummer and coach. He's a business coach as well for musicians. He told me, have you noticed that every time they pay you really well for a gig, they treat you really well, but when you get paid shitty money, they treat you really shitty? There's houses where I teach where they pay me, upwards to a few $100s per lesson, and they treat me very well. They treat me like, oh yeah, coming in, and here, we'll tip you $100. And what do you want to drink? Like, they treat you like a rock star. But I could be the same teacher, and if I'm charging very little money, people are going to assume that I suck. Why? I don't know. I'm the same guy. It's just the way it is.
It's a universal truth, isn't it?
The more you charge, the better people tend to treat you.
Yeah. And you don't learn that until you live it. And then you make that shift. You're like, wow, this is a better existence. So right now, you've got 7 teachers. Your school's going great. You're really happy. You've got all these projects. You're really busy. You've got a lot of things going on that you can't even quite talk about yet because they're just percolating. Can you give us an idea of where you see yourself in the next couple of years with this?
Yeah. Well, I just growing. I mean, I just want to grow. The idea is to continue to grow the teaching business more than my own. One of the most beautiful luxuries of being this busy is that I get to cherry pick the things that I do, especially with the families that I work. And it's getting to this point where I'm like tomorrow I'm driving to one family and I teach all 3 kids. And then the
Yeah.
next day I drive to another family. And like I adore these families.
Yeah.
And it's like I feel almost like Mary Poppins. I'm like, I'm going to the so and so family.
And you walk into those lessons and you're that guy. You said Mary Poppins, like it's that thing
Yeah.
because you're excited to be there. You want to be there. I feel similarly about the people that I get to work with now. I'm
Yeah.
so pumped to teach them. And then because of that, you're better at what you're doing. They're treating you great. You're feeling great about it. And what an awesome place to be. I love that.
I want to stay with the school where I'm a music director at. I really love that community and they've helped me so much.
Oh, wait, can you talk about that really quick?
Sure. I don't know if I should say the name of the school, but yeah, I work part-time in a school.
I think it's important to mention this is part of the quilt of who you are because you're serving a different community there too, right?
It's adjacent to the community of my studio, and then it actually I met a lot of other families from there and another school and other people that I meet through church or
Yeah.
friends. So it's everything you do is like you might get students at the grocery store and then that person might introduce you to whatever. But
Sure.
it's a great school. I love it. They treat me extremely well. I and it's part of it's a very core part of my community, and I don't see myself leaving that job. It's a thing that I was talking to another friend about. I was like, yeah, even if I was making $500,000 in my teaching business, I wouldn't leave that job because it's like I don't know. I teach what 13 hours a week there, 15 hours a week. Um, they
Wait, you
treat me
teach
really well.
15 hours at the school
Yeah.
on top of your teaching, on top of your running the school, on top of the
Yeah.
performing and okay. So you're really busy all the time.
I work like 45, 50 hours a week. I mean, that's really busy to you. Like,
No, but you have because of managing all those things, you must have serious organizational structures in place for deciding what to do, deciding what you're not. I'm assuming it's what you don't do more than what you do, right? I'm sure you're prioritizing.
what I don't know what time it is, like noon right now. I I haven't gone into work yet.
Yeah.
Monday mornings I'm busy. Like if I had like I was playing in Indianapolis 2 weekends ago. So that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I was like booked, right? I'm like out. Like so sometimes I do have things like that, but it's not as crazy as it sounds. And just to go back to the question you asked, I see myself growing the passive side of my income. And
Mhm.
because I have passive income, I've been able to cut back a little bit on my private teaching. So rather than like, oh, you know what, I'm making plenty on my business, I'm going to leave this job. It's like, no, I love this job. I don't want to leave this community. And they helped me so much and they helped me get started. And I'm going to keep being of service here. And I started cutting back on some of my private teaching. And I became like the most flexible teacher in the world, like with my students, not with the students of my teachers, but like, oh yeah, you want to miss later to the sure, whatever. Like it's not that I don't care, but they're families that I know and I'm very flexible with them. Not with the time of my teachers. With the time of my teachers, I'm very, I have to be fair but firm
Hmm.
because they're not in the same position that I am. And so I see myself just only teaching people I love, growing my teaching business, and still, playing on the weekends. And like you said, I'm very selective with what I do with my time now. everything I do has to grow passive income more than anything. Like the extra hours that I have where I'm not teaching myself, they have to, I'm lead generating leads for
Mm.
my, for, like I have a bunch of leads right now, which I haven't closed right now. There's like 22 leads that I need to close right now. Students, like, yeah, I know, but like I need to close those leads. And like I go do things where I generate leads. That's where I'm the most focused right now because that creates passive income, right?
Yeah.
So
I think that I'm reflecting back and I can't wait to listen to this again because I think that as we're kind of wrapping this up, one of the things I'm going to take away from this talk, and I just kept thinking about it the whole time, is I listened to a lot of podcasts about different business things, marketing, different industries, the tech space. You don't hear a whole lot right now where what you've just described is a blueprint that is recreatable for an artist to make an extremely good living. And you said, I like that you said artist. This is a pathway for an artist to have an awesome impact, to be creative, to make an awesome living. We haven't mentioned the fact that this blueprint that you just shared, that anybody could steal or borrow from, and it would be completely different than what you did. The idea of really working hard, having this, building a community, serving people well. If you're hiring people, taking really good care of them, this is not in danger in the next 10 years, right? If
oh
anything, the thing that's coming is more people wanting more of what you're doing. And so we're in this environment. When was the last time that a musician, we're having this conversation, we're like, oh yeah, we're good for the next 15 years. Our careers are dialed in. We're going to be more important, right? And I keep thinking about that, about what you're saying. And yeah, it's really got me fired up. So
no, and it's this is not a popular playbook because of ego and because of what I just described at the beginning of like this is not what I was this is not the bill of goods that I was sold at music schools or out in the industry early on of like this is when you're successful when you're like blah 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 doing these things that I'm like I don't, you know and they're all really a remnant of a time in history where it made sense for musicians to do that. But if you look back like listen, two of my favorite artists are J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis. They were arguably two of the greatest artists of the 20th century. One of them wrote The Lord of the Rings, and the other one wrote Chronicles of Narnia. I think we could say that they were successful artists, right? They never left their teaching posts,
hmm.
ever. That's something people don't talk about. Like, it was like, as a matter of fact, in the intro to The Lord of the Rings, Tolkien says, I never ever expected anyone to like this. I was just doing it for my own, joy or whatever. The freaking Lord of the Rings, the dude that wrote the Lord of the Rings, never left his teaching post until later in his life when he retired. But there were, and the intro he says, like, if anybody's read the Lord of the Rings, this got delayed because I had a lot of commitments with my teaching jobs, with my teaching job.
Huh.
So
I didn't remember that.
so this is not an old playbook, what I'm doing at all. Like the idea of having, there's I mean, and I really love it. I have a beautiful community that I'm a part of. They love me. I love them. It's mutual. It's growing. They want to help me. It's so touching to see moms helping me, promoting my visit. I'm very lucky. I'm putting out a new single this weekend. I'm putting out a new EP next weekend that I spent like 15 grand making, which means that I was able to afford 15 grand to go make music.
What?
And then I get to push it and I have videos that are going viral online and people that want to buy like courses for me that are buying courses, which is not a thing that I'm focusing much on, but it's like well, I'm making my art and I'm getting to work with my heroes. But it's not a playbook that I was taught in school. That nobody talks about this, and it's not what people would define as this is successful. Like, but it's not old. Sorry, it's not new. Like, it's pretty old. J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis were doing it. It's not new at all. Actually, like people would do that. They would make art and they would do things to sustain themselves. The idea of you making art and that's all you do, it's actually very new. And people don't know that. People Like we forget, we assume it, our generation assumes it as, and I know some people would say, oh, that's very grumpy of you to say. It's like, or you're saying that because you didn't make it. And it's like, no, not really. I'm saying that because it is new, actually. It came out of radio and television and that whole world where we're just gonna make one Elvis and one the Beatles, and that's success.
Mm.
But what about those of us who are just making a good living and a great living and having a lot of happiness? And that's a level of maturity that's more personal maturity than anything else. It's like, do you want the shiny thing or you want a happy life? Because the result of this, it's a happy life. I have a retirement plan, I have health insurance, I have people that love me, I have people that love. I'm still playing for thousands of people. I can walk on the street and nobody's gonna harass me. Like, would I love to still, and for next year I get to make it super huge as an artist? Yeah, that's okay, that's a plus. But this is not like I said, going back to Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, they were not interested in being famous. They were just like, doing their art because they love their art and they did incredible art. So I'm not doing anything new here.
And I love that you said about building a happy life, because I also know that when you ask 100 really famous artists if their fame brought them happiness, it is not the fame that brings. And often fame creates unhappiness and scrutiny and expectation and criticism and public shaming, the whole thing. And so being able to look at music as an actual career, right? And building your own and making a life that makes you happy. I mean, that's beautiful. I hope we can do this again, because I'd love to.
Me too.
And I just want to thank you, because this was so much great stuff. We're going to really be excited to share this with especially music students and also people that are at any point in their career. But, I wish I would have heard this talk when I was in music school and been like, because I was entrepreneurial by nature, but what you shared today was so clear. And although it was along your story, I just kept hearing these things that are, yeah, be busy, do what you love, be in a place you want to be. Like they're just really beautiful bullet points that I think anybody could really benefit from hearing. So thank you so much for being here, Roberto. This was an awesome talk.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. And I just want to say thank you for, always inspiring me, for being amazing. I mean, you're one of those people that I'm like, I really admire you, and you've been really a role model for me as an educator and as an entrepreneur. I also have friends who are famous, who are happy. Like that also happens. What I guess my main message with this, which I'll end with, is being that famous is very hard to happen. And it's like it's actually not in your control. And I know this because I work with famous people and I've seen them become famous. And they didn't make it happen. It was timing plus talent plus a lot of luck. And that's something you can't control. What we're talking about, you can control. You can not all of it, but like it's also luck involved. But I think that this type of life is available to just about anybody. If you're willing to work hard and you love music and you're honest and you're kind.
That's really good news. Thank you so much, Roberto. Appreciate you being here. This is fantastic.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
It's good to see you, man.
You too. You've been listening to the 440 podcast. If you found this helpful, subscribe at Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to podcasts, and leave a quick rating. It makes a big difference. To learn more about how to run your teaching studio with less stress and more joy, visit fonz.com. I'm Eric Branner. Thanks for being here.